Have you ever noticed how the English you, maybe, learned in a textbook sounds kind of different? Different from how people actually speak. Well, today, this deep dive is all about pulling back the curtain on natural, unscripted conversation. We want to reveal the surprising nuances of real-life spoken English.
Exactly. Yeah, we're basically dissecting a natural conversation. It's between a pretty famous podcast host and an American author, and it really showcases the fluidity of real language. Our mission today is to unpack these, fascinating insights hidden within everyday speech, helping you understand how language truly works out there in the wild.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Hmm.
You often think of grammar as these, like, rigid rules, right?
Hmm.
But real conversation throws some fascinating curveballs.
It absolutely does. Yeah, unscripted conversations. They often reveal what you might call unconventional phrasing and sentence structures too.
Unconventional how?
Well, for instance, starting a sentence with and, it's actually really common in conversational English, even though, traditional grammar rules used to discourage it.
Huh? And it's not just starting sentences differently, is it? I mean, grammatical mistakes can pop up too, like subject-verb agreement, even with fluent speakers.
Oh, absolutely. It happens. And it's interesting because it shows how language works in real time. You might hear someone say something like, that has some impact that are sometimes funny.
Instead of that is.
Right, instead of that is, or maybe impacts that are. Or you might hear incorrect verb forms like using would be considered when maybe would consider fits better. These kinds of, let's call them errors or deviations, can happen because a speaker might be sort of thinking of multiple ways to phrase something at once.
No, juggling options in their head.
Exactly, or they might even change their thought mid-sentence. But what's fascinating here is that despite these little deviations from formal rules, the way things are said in real-life communication is often, perfectly correct for the setting, for the situation.
So it works, even if it's not textbook perfect.
It communicates the idea
Hmm.
effectively, yeah, even if it wouldn't pass a strict grammar check-in, say, formal writing.
Okay, that's grammar. But here's where it gets really interesting for me. Beyond the sentence structure, if you listen closely, you notice how people naturally pause and how they use certain words, fillers, almost without thinking.
Yes, that's another layer. The frequent use of filler words like, or again, or, um,
Right. What's the function there? Just buying time?
often, yes. The primary function is often to, well, buy time while thinking, or maybe trying to recall a specific word. And look, while it's generally maybe better to try and avoid overusing them, they are pretty acceptable if you need them. It's human.
And it's not just fillers, is it? I notice people also, pause quite a bit. Sometimes they repeat words or even just change their sentence completely halfway through.
Exactly right. And the reason for all these habits, speakers are trying to find the right words on the spot.
Yeah.
Right then and there, and they might change the direction of their thoughts as they speak. It's very dynamic.
Like constructing it live.
Precisely. It's
Okay.
unscripted. And, other factors play a role too, like just being tired or maybe experiencing a bit of brain fog. That can make communication, well, more difficult. And that often leads to an increase in those filler words we talked about.
So it's really a window into the thinking process.
Absolutely. The human brain at work, figuring things out as it goes.
Okay, so we've got grammar quirks,
Hmm.
pauses, fillers.
Hmm.
Now let's talk about how words actually sound. You mentioned before we started that many words have, like, multiple correct pronunciations. That seems odd.
It does seem a bit odd at first, doesn't it? But yes, they absolutely do. And these variations are often influenced by things like regional accents, even just personal speech patterns.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay, a striking one is the word uncomfortable. You'll hear it pronounced at least three main ways in the US. First, you might hear it almost dropping the sound, so it's like uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. Right, I think I know that one. Where's that common?
That's pretty typical for areas like New York, Boston, New Jersey.
Okay. What else?
Then there's uncomfortable, sort of squishing the middle. That's actually probably the most common way you'll hear it in just everyday casual speech across most of the US. It's faster.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Got it. And the third?
The third is uncomfortable, keeping all five syllables clear. That's more the standard American pronunciation, the one you might hear in more careful or, say, formal speech.
Wow. So all three are technically correct.
Correct in the sense that they are commonly used and understood within different contexts and regions. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And you said employee is another one. with different stress patterns.
Yep. Employee also has two main pronunciations depending on where you place the primary and secondary stress. It just shows how flexible pronunciation can be.
And you can even spot specific regional tells, right? Like a New
Wow.
York accent.
Oh, definitely. For a New York accent, listen for things like saying ratha instead of rather, or maybe conversation for conversation. Little indicators like that. And if we connect this back to the bigger picture, it just shows how diverse spoken English is, how dynamic.
Not just one single right way.
Exactly. It's full of regional flavor, personal style. It's quite rich.
So, okay, we've covered grammar, pauses, pronunciation. What does all this mean, especially for you listening right now if you're learning English? What's the takeaway?
I think the really important message here is that everyone makes mistakes. Even highly intelligent, well-spoken native speakers, they might stutter sometimes or pause or change their speech mid-sentence. And yes, they make grammatical errors too.
That feels like a relief, honestly.
It should. It's a natural, just an unavoidable part of being human and communicating. It's simply part of the process.
So for English learners, is the advice then not to fixate so much on every little mistake?
Absolutely. Don't fixate. Understanding that these imperfections are natural allows learners to feel more relaxed, more confident, hopefully.
Because trying to be perfect holds you back.
It really can, because here's the thing. Learning, real improvement, it actually happens by making those mistakes, by trying things out, getting feedback, adjusting. So it raises this question, right? What if embracing that imperfection, that natural messiness, is actually the key to unlocking fluency?
Letting go of the pressure frees you up to just speak.
Exactly. It liberates you.
That's a great perspective. Okay, so beyond just understanding this,
Yeah.
how can you actively use this knowledge? How can listeners start sounding more natural themselves?
Well, one really practical technique is something called shadowing.
Shadowing? What's that?
It's where you listen to native speakers, maybe on a podcast or TV or in conversation, and you try to imitate them. Not just the words, but their rhythm, their intonation, the phrasing. You speak along with them or just after them. It's a really effective way to pick up those natural phrases and idioms almost seamlessly. It helps your speech sound more authentic.
That sounds useful. And speaking of useful resources, there's actually a great tool that fits right in here. It's a new, free 5-minute speaking quiz offered by Camp. Camp is an online English learning platform. This quiz helps you figure out your English speaking level.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and it gives you personalized tips for improvement. Based on your results, it recommends a specific learning plan. It looks at your grammar, vocabulary, coherence, gives feedback on fluency, too.
So it connects directly to what we've been talking about, understanding where you are and how to improve naturally.
Exactly. And Camp itself, the platform, offers real conversations with native speakers, 247.
Ah, so you can practice putting these ideas into actual conversation.
Right. Lessons are based on your goals. You get tutor support. Lots of options there.
That sounds like a good way to bridge the gap between understanding and actually doing.
Definitely. So wrapping up, this deep dive has really shown us that natural spoken English isn't some perfect, rigid system. It's vibrant, it's flexible, full of these fascinating quirks that just make it human.
Yeah.
It seems it's less about sticking perfectly to the rules and more about, effective communication, getting your point across.
Absolutely. And maybe something to think about is this. If even native speakers naturally embrace these imperfections we've discussed, how might letting go of that intense pressure to be perfect free you up? How might it help you communicate with more confidence, maybe more connection? What really stands out to you from our chat today about the messy but beautiful reality of natural English?